Well, he threw for over 5,000 yards in his college career and now just eclipsed that in his pro career. He's thrown touchdowns to what seems like a million different receivers from Chula Vista, California to Commerce, Texas, now back in the Lone Star State with the XFL's Arlington Renegades. Quarterback Luis Perez. Luis, welcome to Springball Boulevard. Thanks for joining us today, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, about a month ago exactly, Luis, coming off a loss to St. Louis at home, you are traded from the Vegas Vipers to the Arlington Renegades. When you first got the news that this deal was done, what was your reaction?
It wasn't like it was shocking news. It was kind of a mutual decision that kind of went down. That's what people don't really know. It was kind of a mutual decision to part ways. Again, I respect Coach Woodson. I love Coach Woodson to death. He's awesome. But at that time, in that moment, it was better for me to make it happen to come here to Arlington.
Yeah, and I think the trade did work out for you. Obviously, you win your first game as a starter. Then you come out, you engineer what was a magical fourth quarter against DC, falling just short of that comeback, but probably playing your best game of the season. You guys were heavy underdogs in that. Half the crowd had left. Nobody even realized that DC could have lost that game. So that was incredible. I know you could play in any offense, but what are the key differences you think in the system you ran in Vegas for the first half of the season versus what you're running now?
Um, they're pretty similar. Um, Terminology is a little bit different, but as far as the scheme wise, it was pretty much same. I mean, everybody kind of runs the same plays in a sense. Maybe you read it a little bit differently here and there. You call it something different here, but a four-man slide for the O-line is a four-man slide, whether you call it Roger, whether you call it Rock, it doesn't matter, right? It's still football. And I think that's one of the things that's helped me just throughout my whole career is just adapting to so many different offenses throughout my career and just kind of putting it all together and saying, oh, you know what, this is what we ran here, and just kind of putting it all together.
Absolutely. And obviously, you guys as a team had your ups and downs in Vegas, but I always thought that team was loaded at wide receiver. I know Jeff Badette was a star. Sinque Sweeting was starting to break out. Obviously, had the veterans with Allison and Bryant, and then Sean Price at tight end. But I think the Renegades get slept on a little bit at that receiver position. Obviously, you have Sal Cannella, who's an all XFL tight end for sure. What about some of the other guys in this receiving core who maybe don't get as much love as the guys in Vegas were getting?
Yeah, Lawan, TV. I mean, shoot, Caleb, Brandon, you got JP, you got Speedy, you got all these guys that just make plays, man. They all rotate and they all get a lot of playing time, but they all have kind of their strengths and they all do a great job, man. We hold meetings all the time in my room and every single one's there. They're all attentive. They're all wanting to get better. So that's encouraging to see. And I'm just excited for those guys to put on a good game here on Saturday.
Yeah, it's really cool to see all the options. It seems like a different guy will step up every game where some other teams in the league, obviously they have their go-to receivers. With the Renegades, you never know who's going to step
You
up.
never
So it's a
know.
very deep receiving core. Let's go ahead and let's scout Houston a little bit. You got your first crack at them last week. Obviously, you didn't get to see them when you were with Vegas. So you played them last week, a little bit less on the line. Obviously, you're without your starting running back in Davion Smith and some different things going on. Now the chance to really find your spots. What are the Houston strengths that you think you can prepare for, and what are some of the weaknesses that you can maybe exploit?
So I would say this: they have a very good defense. Up front, they're really good. At linebacker, they're fast, and at DB, they're very well experienced and they're good players. What I was telling the guys this week and what Coach emphasized was, hey, it's really about us. It's not really about what they do. It's about executing our plays to the highest of their potential. And if you go back and watch the tape, you see that there's a lot of things that we can clean up that'll make us a lot better. So I think that's very encouraging to see. So I think the big emphasis this week is not really about Houston. It's really about us executing.
Picking it up here, you talk about Coach Stoops, right? And what he's telling the team, and obviously Coach Hayes as well. I've always thought during the XFL season, this is a staff that really stuck together. And talking to Coach Stoops about all the old days with him and Coach Hayes and all the different coaches on this staff, how Bob Stoops has known them his entire life. Seems like some other teams in the league, obviously you went through it in Vegas where Dwayne Taylor was let go week 2 or 3. And, you had connections in Arlington where even when the offense wasn't great that first half of the year before you got there, they all stuck together and found a way to do it without firing anybody or letting anybody go. What has it been like with Coach Stoops? You guys are both college football national champions at different levels, right? What has it been like to play for a winner like that? And what have you learned from Coach Stoops?
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, and you said it, man. He's a winner. He's a winner. He demands winning, and I think his winning culture is starting to spread out. Guys are believing. Guys are seeing that, hey, man, there's a lot of potential on this team, and we can get it done. And just talking about the offensive staff, like you said, they all, they were in St. Louis in the XFL, most of them in 2020, and you can see it. You can see that these guys have worked together. These guys know how to communicate with each other, know how to get what they want to get done. And yeah, no, honestly, it's been great here.
Awesome. And I want to get your thoughts on the level of play in XFL 2023, because I think you have a better perspective as far as spring leagues than a lot of guys do. From a talent standpoint, all the spring leagues that you've played in, including the first version of the XFL back in 2020, does this feel to you like the toughest and the biggest challenge to play in is from a talent standpoint?
That's kind of a tough question because I'm also growing as a player, right? So back in 2019 when I was in the AAF or 2020 when I was in the XFL, I'm not the player I am now, so it's maybe it was challenging back then, and if I was playing now then it wouldn't be as challenging. Those are questions that are hard to answer. I would say though that the level of competition here has been very good. And I think, you can just see it. You can see the hunger on everybody that's on there on the field that, they want to make it. They want to make it happen. They want to make it to the big leagues or whatever the why is. But yeah, honestly, the level of competition has been really good.
Yeah, there are moments where you're seeing that, where everything's on the line and the effort that you get. Like I go back to that 4th and 15 play. And I think one of our candidates for play of the year in DC, you got one arm tied behind your back. Canella's coming across the field. You find him. That allowed that game to go on in different levels. And even the NFL, we don't get a chance for a team to get the ball back there. And that made that game real interesting coming down to the finish there against a really tough defense in DC. Luis, I got to get one more for you before you get out of here. Obviously, I saw in training camp, a lot of guys were hitting up the local bowling alley. I know probably everybody asked you this. Everybody was going on the team outings on their days off. Did you participate in those, or did you just say, hey, I can't do it because I'm just going to tear everybody up?
No, I actually did go one time. I went with the Player 54 episode asked me to go out, and we went to go bowl. So that was fun to get out there. I hadn't bowled in a long time, so it was good to get out there.
Yeah, I was wondering if your teammates knew at that point that you had the bowling career in the past, or if you told anybody. I'm sure they were like, wow, it makes me look great.
Yeah, no, a lot of guys kind of know just from, again, every league I've played in and it's down all over the internet. So guys kind of already know that.
Yeah, I had to bring it up. I had to mention it for last. But obviously, the most important thing is the football. Thank you, Luis Perez, for joining us. Obviously, huge playoff game. You guys will be in Houston. So much history there with Wade Phillips now coaching a playoff game back in Houston. Bob Stoops now going down. It's going to be a Texas throwdown. You're used to playing in the state. We can't wait for it. Thank you, Luis Perez, for joining us. We appreciate it. And good luck on Saturday night.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, man.